Journeying through love's ups and downs, I asked my boyfriend, "Why are you scared of us?" He replied, "I need my dad's permission." After living together, he still hesitates at marriage. Can we truly overcome his family's expectations before it's too late? My boyfriend, 32 years old, and I, 39 years old, are either concluding our current relationship or embarking on a new chapter in our love story. To marry or not to marry? Longest Reddit post in history. This is a lengthy story. I apologize in advance. I'm a 39-year-old woman and my boyfriend, fiancé, and roommate is a 32-year-old man. We first met on August 15, 2022, where there was an immediate mutual attraction. I asked him if he had a Facebook account because it seemed less forward than requesting his phone number, but I knew I wanted to see him or at least talk to him again. He replied, "No, I deleted it to get away from my crazy ex." Before diving too deeply into the story, let me provide some background for context. He comes from a large, strict Romanian Pentecostal family and is the eldest of 11 children with the same mother and father. Tragically, his mother passed away a little over 7 years ago. In their culture and belief system, or perhaps just in his family, children are expected to remain at home with their families until their wedding day. Once married, they are free to leave and live with their spouses. But until then, it is considered taboo to leave home, no matter how old you are. It does not matter whether you are in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, you are expected to stay with your family of origin. I was raised in the Christian faith and share many of the same beliefs as he does along with his family, but I was never part of a church or any specific denomination. As an only child, my father abandoned me and my mother when I was just 8 years old. Before that, I had witnessed a great deal of abuse and domestic violence. My father neglected me significantly. After he was gone, my mother withdrew me from school, supposedly to homeschool me, which never occurred, and I experienced both parentification and isolation. I grew up in poverty, my mother never worked, and my father never paid child support. The only income we had was $200 a month from a tiny rental property that my mother owned at the time, along with charity from churches and kind strangers. Moving on, I ended up marrying at 19 my first husband, who is also the father of my now 18-year-old son. My mother coerced us through malicious manipulation to live with her. Since I lacked experience, I had no choice but to stay. Although I did love him and intended for our marriage to last forever, issues arose just after my oldest son was born, which forced us out of my mother's home. During that tumultuous time, I discovered that my first husband was a wanted child predator in the state of California. He was found and arrested, and upon learning all of this, I filed for divorce as I could not take the risk for my child. By this time, I was 21 years old. I subsequently met a man at work, and to short the long story, I ended up marrying him. My intentions were good, I thought we would make it work. However, after our marriage, he became severely abusive and cruel, treating me poorly and being unkind to my son as well. Eventually, after 6 years of marriage, I had to leave and filed for divorce. I could not endure the abuse any longer. I wanted something better for my son. After that, I entered into a year-long relationship with another man, though thankfully, I was never married to him as he was worse than the previous one. I ended that relationship before it could deteriorate further. Then I met a man who had been an acquaintance of my mother and me throughout the years. This was in January 2014. We dated briefly and then got married. Once again, I thought this would be it, that I would finally have stability and a peaceful, happy marriage. At that point, I was 29 years old and he was 52. I spent 9 years married to him, 8 of which we lived together. Initially, everything was relatively good. He was not abusive or mean. However, early in our marriage, his mother, God rest her beautiful soul, told me one day, "He is going to change one day." I was uncertain about what she meant, and before she could provide more context, he interrupted us, stating he wouldn't change and advised me not to listen to her. I did not think much of it until a few years later when I began to understand her words' meaning. He became increasingly cold and distant, withholding intimacy and affection. He quit working for the most part, spending his time playing video games and fixating on his perpetual obsession with computer programming and uncompleted writing projects. The lack of affection began in late 2016 and progressively worsened. At some point in 2017, I approached him saying, "I feel neglected and lonely. You are always busy on your computer and not meeting my needs as a husband should. Can we do something to remedy this? I want to save our marriage." For a brief couple of weeks, it seemed he was making an effort, but that was short-lived, and things returned to their previous state, worsening over time. Fast forward to the COVID-19 pandemic era. I took some time off work at that time when he completely gave up working. Even though we were together all the time at home, there was still no intimacy, no passion, and no romance. I felt no love at all. Towards the end of 2021, I started working again while he did not. During COVID, while both of us were off work, I kept us financially afloat, even selling some of my cherished belongings to pay his mortgage. He owned a house before we married, but even after our wedding, he never included me on any of the mortgage paperwork, utility bills, or the deed to the property. It was as if I did not exist in that context. Nevertheless, I made sure the bills were paid. I managed all financial responsibilities. He never helped out, which would have been fine had he contributed in other ways, such as maintaining the house, but he did not. The home remained in a hoarded condition. He prohibited me from cleaning it properly, and he did not clean at all. By some miracle, I ended up having a baby who was born in August 2021. Over the duration between late 2016 and August 2022, I repeatedly pleaded with this man, begging him to step up. I expressed that I was developing wandering eyes, indicating I did not want to cheat, but I needed him to meet me halfway. I implored him to show me some love, recognize my efforts, or at least greet me when I came home from work. Unfortunately, my pleas fell on deaf ears. Each time I returned home, he was either on his computer or asleep and never acknowledged me. I eventually discovered that he harbored a deep affection for another woman he had met when she was 12 years old and he was around 21. He claimed he had fallen in love with her then, but he ended up being with her mother, thinking that being with the mother would prevent abuse directed at the girl. They eventually separated, and when the girl matured, he attempted to pursue her. Naturally, that did not work out. Thus, he waited for 25 years until he reconnected with me in 2014 and suddenly decided I was the one. After I uncovered all this and witnessed the way he beamed with excitement whenever her name arose, I realized he was still twistedly in love with her. After many fruitless attempts to bring our relationship back on track, I became incredibly lonely. This brings us to my boyfriend's story, which will eventually lead us back to our story and the reason I am posting here. My boyfriend left his family home in February 2020. He moved out in an attempt to be with his crazy ex, as he referred to her. Here's the twist: she was an escort and he fell in love with her. Although he used the services of many escorts from around 2016 or 2017, she was the one he wanted to give everything to, and he devoted his heart to her. She led him into methamphetamine use, ultimately taking everything from him both financially and emotionally. He attempted to leave her once or twice, but consistently found himself back with her. So when I finally met him for the first time on August 15, 2022, he had just escaped her once again. He had been sober from methamphetamine since July 23, 2022, so he was fresh out of a destructive situation and drugs. We met in a training class at work. After I learned he didn't have a Facebook account, we talked briefly before parting ways. I thought about him quite often, wondering how he was doing and hoping to see him again. Fast forward to August 31, 2022. I saw him heading into clock out while I was leaving the parking lot. When I spotted him, I stopped and called out to him. He did not hear me the first time, and perhaps I should have just let it go, but I didn't want to, so I lightly honked the horn, which got his attention, and I beckoned him over. I asked how he had been and told him I remembered him. He came over, and during our brief conversation I mentioned, "I am married, and I cannot be anything more than friends, but would you like to go to the Quick Trip, a popular convenience store chain in our area, and have a donut and iced tea sometime to talk?" He agreed that it would be nice, acknowledged my marital status, and said we could be friends. However, if I am honest, we both knew we wanted more. He gave me his phone number, and later that evening I texted him to set up a meeting time for the following evening, September 1, 2022. When the time arrived, I went to the Quick Trip and waited for him. He called and said, "I need to tell you something before I come over. It might be a deal breaker for you, so if it is, just let me know and I will understand." I asked, "Okay, what is it?" He said, "I am homeless. I am living at the shelter. I am trying to get my life back together, but right now I am homeless." I replied, "Is that it?" He confirmed, "Yes." I then exclaimed, "Don't be silly, that is not a deal breaker. I still want to hang out with you, so please come over." He asked, "Are you sure?" And I affirmed, "Yes." He responded, "Okay, I will be there in a few minutes." Sure enough, he arrived. I ordered us something to eat and a couple of drinks, and we sat at the front table to talk. During this time, at one moment, he paused his conversation, looked into my eyes deeply, so profoundly that I felt he was peering into my soul. He has beautiful eyes, by the way. He confessed, "I need to be cautious because I can see myself falling in love with you so quickly." At that moment, I knew I was in love with him, deeply in love. While we were sitting outside, my mother called my phone and my boyfriend wanted to speak to her. I thought he was joking, so I said, "Sure, go ahead." To my surprise, he answered. He mentioned that he was my friend and invited her to come over. Of course, she accepted and we all sat and conversed. After that, we made time to see each other after work and even during lunch breaks, as I was a taxi driver and he was an hourly non-medical wheelchair transportation driver every single day, except for 2 days when our schedules conflicted. We continued to talk and text daily from that night until now. At some point within the first 2 weeks or even less, I cannot recall precisely, but it was early on, he rented a hotel room to escape the shelter for some privacy and a decent shower. He invited me over to watch a movie or grab something to eat. I should have known what was likely to happen, and I probably did, but I opted to go anyway. I spent the day with him and we ended up sleeping together. Afterward, I felt guilty and ashamed, so when I returned home as usual, I received no acknowledgement from my then husband, but I felt that I should be honest about what had happened. He was lying on the bed, so I sat in a chair and told him I made a mistake. I slept with another man. He just looked emotionless. I thought perhaps he was in shock or did not comprehend, so to ensure my point was clear, I added, "I just had sex with another man. I could be pregnant by him." Thankfully, I was not, but I wanted to ensure my ex-husband fully understood what had occurred. I am uncertain what I expected from him, but it was not what he did. He patted the bed and said, "It's okay, come lay down next to me." The entire situation became very awkward. As time passed, my boyfriend and I continued to see each other every day. I found out at least twice that he was attempting to reconnect with his escort girlfriend. That deeply hurt me and made me angry. For some reason, I felt betrayed, even though we were not officially together at the time. I confronted him about it, held him accountable, and helped keep him away from her and her drugs. According to him, I likely saved his life. At the very least, I prevented him from going to prison since she was incredibly harmful to him. As months went by, he began to realize the path he would have undoubtedly taken, one that would have led to his destruction. He now tells others that I helped save his life. Eventually, his family discovered that he was seeing someone, me of course. They spoke to him about it, and he explained a little about me, particularly that I had a child and was not Romanian. They instantly disapproved based on those two factors alone. My boyfriend entered a program through the shelter that offered him a little apartment to share with a roommate. His responsibility was to abide by their rules, work hard, and save as much money as possible. He was required to save 80% of every paycheck. In exchange, he could stay rent-free and build his savings. The program was supposed to last for 90 days. He started in September 2022 and managed to stay clean, work, and save. The program's ultimate goal was to help someone regain self-sufficiency. Once the program ended, they would assist individuals in securing their own apartment, covering the first month's rent and providing furniture, ultimately ensuring they had an emergency fund and could continue working and paying rent to achieve stability. However, as I mentioned, the program was intended to last for only 90 days. He moved in September, but they had not found him or many other participants a place by the end of January or early February. He was still there. At the end of January, I decided I needed to leave the abysmal and lonely situation I was in with my then-husband. I required a safer, cleaner environment for my little boy. I could not continue seeing someone while still living with someone else. It simply was not right, and I had exhausted my patience, clinging to fleeting hope that it would improve. If I am honest, I knew it would not get better. I instinctively understood that if I did not leave, I would face issues regarding my son's living conditions, and I did not want that for him. I reached out to a facility that is supposed to assist families or single mothers in obtaining shelter. When I spoke with someone, she informed me she was a mandated reporter, so I hesitated to share too many details. I kept my explanation vague, stating I needed a better situation for my son and me. She placed me on a waiting list and I departed. However, I was concerned that someone would come to inspect my situation and that I could potentially lose my son. On that day, I decided to leave, stay at a hotel with my child, and work each day to pay rent until something materialized. As I packed our clothes and belongings, a loud knock on the door startled me. It was the police announcing their presence. I was terrified. I took my son and hid in the bathroom, calling my now boyfriend, asking him to pray that they would leave quickly and that I would not encounter any trouble. He agreed but insisted, "Tell me the address and I will be right there. I will ensure they are gone and take you guys out of there." He did just that. He arrived, circled the area until he confirmed they had left, and loaded my little boy and me into the work van he was using even though he wasn't supposed to. He did regardless, and took us away from that environment. That was all I expected from him, and while I didn't anticipate him doing more, he took us to the motel and went inside. I provided him with the money I had for the night, but he insisted on renting the room in his name to avoid any legal records if my ex-husband attempted to locate me. When he returned, I learned he didn't only pay for one night. He paid for an entire week out of his own pocket. This was on February 1, 2023, just before the Super Bowl, when hotel rates skyrocketed, but he didn't seem to mind. That was not the end of it. After securing the room, he took us to Walmart and spent over $500 to buy everything we needed: a crib, a mattress for the crib, bottles, milk, absolutely everything we required. He even purchased food and water bowls for our dog along with a harness and a leash. He acquired everything. This was the first time I truly felt he loved me, as one does not simply do that unless they feel genuine love. It was not just a random act of kindness. When we returned to the hotel with our supplies, he helped me carry everything in. The significant part was that he brought himself inside as well. He didn't leave. He spent that night with me, moving the few belongings he had from the transitional apartment he had been residing in for the last 5 months into the hotel. He abandoned that program. You see, he was not supposed to touch the savings he had accumulated, over $15,000, until the program ended and he secured his own place. Nevertheless, he made the decision to help us, whether out of love or pity. A couple of days into our stay at the hotel, while sitting in the back hatch of my car, I asked him, "Can we be official boyfriend and girlfriend and exclusive to one another? I want that, do you?" It did not take him long to respond. Within seconds, he replied, "Yes." That is how we officially became exclusive and a couple. We secured an apartment in March, but by the time we moved in there, every penny of his savings was gone. He had given up his job for us, so we needed to find new employment, which we did. From March 2023 until the end of August 2024, we lived in that apartment together, at which point we could no longer afford the rent. While it has been a challenging journey, we now have a small studio apartment that is more affordable. It is important to mention that when we initially met and started our relationship, my boyfriend explicitly stated several times that he did not seek a relationship, emphasizing his desire to focus on work, his spiritual journey, and his family. However, while he was in the shelter program and we spent time together daily, he often informed me that once he secured an apartment, I was welcome to come over, watch a movie, and presumably partake in other romantic activities if you catch my drift. He was comfortable keeping me as a secret and leading a double life, presenting to his family what they wished to see while living his life privately. This creates my dilemma. His actions did not align with his words. His words expressed, "I don't want a relationship," while his actions indicated, "I do." This contradiction leaves me confused. Throughout our time together, we have experienced numerous breakups, verbally at least, always initiated by him. The last time we broke up was in August 2024. I believed it would be final. I packed my and my child's belongings into the car and left with no intention of returning. However, before I could block his number within under 5 minutes, through all my tears and anger, he called saying, "I messed up, I don't know what I'm doing." Despite my reluctance, I felt an internal impulse to return and check on him, so I did. Upon my arrival, I found him on the floor, kneeling and crying bitterly. I embraced him and tried to comfort him, expressing my lingering love. I left the decision to him. He wiped his tears and sat in a chair, stating, "I need more time to make a final decision. If we go together and get a marriage license, can I have more time? I'm not saying I will marry you, and you need to understand that if we go through with this, I might not marry you. But if you're okay with that, do you want to go and get a marriage license to give me more time to think about it?" I replied, "Okay, let's do it." We went that very day and obtained a marriage license. By the end of August, we moved out of our apartment and stayed in hotels temporarily until we found our studio. Here we are now, approaching the end of the year, and he has decided to reach a final decision by New Year's. Despite our mistakes, neither of us is comfortable continuing to live like a couple without being married. It feels improper, as that is not how we were taught. Because of this, we are refraining from having sex, which is one of the most important aspects for me. I receive mixed signals. On some days he is affectionate, while on others he seems distant. However, one constant remains: I love him and want him to be my forever partner. He is the most wonderful, amazing, crazy, funny, lovable, and sweet man I have ever met. Despite the ongoing pain and my daily tears, I find myself scared that he will choose to walk away, leaving me and my little boy, who has grown very attached to him during these past 2 years. He entered our lives before my son could walk. He was barely 1 and is now 3 years old. Yet through it all, I hold on to hope that he will recognize the depth of my love, realizing I am not the other woman who hurt him long ago. I hope he will understand he can make decisions without seeking his father's approval. For some reason, this matter is of utmost importance to him, or perhaps he uses it as an excuse, given that he managed to leave home without issue. If the other girl had wanted to be with him, he would have pursued her regardless of his family's disapproval. But he continually claims that his family's opinions are crucial to him. During one of our verbal breakups, he stated, "I need my father's permission and consent." I wanted to believe he was joking, but he was sincere at that moment. This man has a significantly disorganized attachment style, and I, if you haven't noticed, have a profoundly anxious attachment style. Thus, neither of us has a secure attachment style, which is undoubtedly the ideal. I have been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, BPD. My boyfriend has not received any professional diagnosis as he has not sought out treatment, but I suspect he may also have BPD. Additionally, I believe he may exhibit symptoms of bipolar disorder due to his severe mood swings, swinging from high energy and happiness to deep sadness and irritability. He grapples with social anxiety and struggles to be around others, especially in crowded places like stores or parks. Ultimately, we both have our share of issues, but I firmly believe those issues can be resolved with sufficient time, effort, and dedication. I also believe that if two people genuinely love each other, they can grow together, work on their self-improvement, and support each other in becoming better versions of themselves. One more significant detail: my boyfriend's family wanted him to pursue a specific program to aid him in overcoming his methamphetamine addiction and extricating himself from a harmful lifestyle. However, he refused that path, expressing his desire to quit cold turkey and alone. They utilized this as an excuse to deny him help. They would not bring him food when he was starving and cold on the streets during winter, even when he reached out to his father for assistance. They have completely turned their backs on him. The only one who occasionally meets him is his father, at a neighborhood park near his residence. Not even his twin sister wished him a happy birthday on his last birthday, only his father did so late in the day, and one of his brothers followed up a few days later. He is unwelcome at their family home and has been for a long time. They have not invited him over for any Thanksgiving, Christmas dinners, family barbecues, or any family outings or functions since 2020, long before we ever met. However, now there is a supposed arrangement. If he leaves me and complies with their expectations, they will start behaving like a family again and gradually reconnect with him. His father will suddenly visit him at his new place, wherever he may be. However, the stipulation is that they will not welcome him back into the family home, and they expect him to begin anew, starting from scratch in the shelter and work his way back up until they see him adhering to their demands. Only then, they claim, will they resume familial ties. You might call me crazy, perhaps I am, but that does not seem like love to me. It resembles conditional love, a way to control someone to act according to your demands rather than genuinely caring for them and allowing them to live their life. I keep reminding my boyfriend that if we marry, his family will eventually come to accept that fact and might extend invitations for family gatherings. I also tell him that if he chooses to leave me, he faces the risk of them not following through with their promises of family reunification. I stress that no matter what he does, he will never be able to live up to their relentless expectations, which are perpetual and exhausting. I remind him that if he walks away from me, he cannot have me anymore, as it would mean leaving my life for good. However, if he remains and opts to marry me, he can simultaneously build some form of relationship with his father and family. They will likely accept him and us, allowing him to have both me and his family. Should he choose to leave, he will miss his chance to build a life together with me. Should that happen, I genuinely mean it when I say I will be done. I will not pursue any relationships again. If he departs my life, I will close off that warm place in my heart, making it impossible for others to appreciate. I realize that sometimes individuals endure such pain that they simply shut down and forget about any potential for love. Nonetheless, that is the bulk of my story. My question for you is, do any of you have similar stories or regrets about letting someone go? Is there any advice you can offer me regarding my relationship with my boyfriend, whom I affectionately call my flower? I genuinely love this man and he knows it, though I believe he is partly afraid of being hurt again, especially concerning the potential of marriage. I keep assuring him that not much will change. I will remain the same person, with the main difference being that we will finally be able to be intimate. We have already navigated through so much together, and if we are still here despite all that we have faced, what makes him think we cannot work through anything else? I apologize for the length of my story. Thank you for taking the time to read it. Please share your experiences, perspectives, and advice with me. Story 2. My fiancé insists I'm lazy and a man-child, yet I'm the only one working while helping with her studies and organizing trips. After proposing to fix things, she locked the ring away and threatened to return it. How did we end up here at 27? I, 27 male, have been in a relationship with my girlfriend, now fiancé, 29 female, for almost 6 years. We met in a city near my parents' house. She came here for her studies, and this is where we first encountered each other. The beginning of our relationship was challenging. We had some conflicts, but over time, it improved. For me, the issue has been and continues to be that she acts as if I am completely unattractive to her, telling me to stay away when I attempted to kiss her for the first time, refusing to engage in any sexual activity with me, and so forth. During that period, I used to organize interesting dates for us just as she did, a habit that later was abandoned, and I regret that significantly this detail will be relevant. I began spending a considerable amount of time at her place. She lived very close to the university and declined to visit me at my home regularly, primarily because with public transport it could take over an hour to reach there, but likely also due to my parents' presence. I recall her taking an Uber to return to her apartment about twice, an event she often brings up during arguments to illustrate my family's greed and my lack of manliness. However, there were several instances when my father drove her back from my place by car, or when we went to her apartment to retrieve a thermometer from my house during the pandemic. One crucial aspect is that around that time, during our first or second year together, I inquired about her thoughts on marriage. She informed me that it would be nice, but we should wait until we completed our studies. She asserts that during that period, there were several instances in which I behaved rudely towards her, telling her that I am not her father when she asked for assistance. But I do not recall those events, and she cannot remember the specifics. Regardless, since I am seeking an honest opinion, please consider that such occurrences could have taken place, and I might simply be in denial. I come from a dysfunctional family, although perhaps not in the manner you might imagine. My father works in academia, specializing in a narrow branch of information technology, although he earns significantly less than any industry information technology worker with even half of his knowledge or experience. I mention this because my girlfriend claimed that he is just lazy. He is also a poor driver, which is another reason my girlfriend dislikes him, to which I can only agree. Most of the time, he seems either depressed or angry. Like the rest of my family, he endures constant conflicts with my mother. She previously worked as an editor about a decade ago, but then left due to health issues and some type of mental crisis. Currently, she is retired and operates an online shop, but I am unsure if this contributes much to my parents' overall income. She is one of the most emotionally unstable and self-centered individuals I know. Everyone in my family has been threatened and insulted by her numerous times. My girlfriend has also endured negative experiences with her family, although I am uncertain how much I can disclose without breaching her privacy. So let me just say that she has frequent altercations with her parents and possesses many unpleasant memories, of which I am quite confident, as her family aligns well with the description she provided before I met them. Returning to my family, we rarely traveled for holidays, except for 2 occasions when I went to the mountains with my father, and I was apprehensive about organizing trips, fearing I would mess something up. During our first holiday together, my girlfriend arranged a trip for us to the seaside. We traveled there through her city. At that time, she applied for some studies but did not succeed and occasionally took her frustrations out on me. She began yelling at me when I was uncertain whether she wanted to keep her room door open or closed and nearly canceled the trip over that. Aside from those incidents, it was a pleasant experience except for 2 events. The first was that we intended to have intercourse for the first time. When she saw me naked while wearing a condom, she ran away to the farthest corner of the room in a mix of disgust and fear, which was not precisely how I envisioned our initial experience. The second and more significant issue was that I forgot her birthday. I thought it would not be a major problem since a few months prior she had forgotten mine, but she constantly reminds me of it during arguments. I acknowledge that, given she organized the holiday, this was a substantial mistake on my part. Later, when we computed the costs, for some reason she concealed part of the expenses, resulting in me giving her less money than she actually paid for my stay. I am uncertain why she did that, but it has also come up multiple times in subsequent discussions. The following few years passed without any significant surprises. We again vacationed near the seaside. During those years, she again responded similarly to attempts at intimacy. I completed my studies and aimed to pursue a PhD. I was encouraged to study abroad but chose to stay in my country to remain with my girlfriend, though I changed cities to study in a place where research focused on subjects that interest me. From what I gathered, this was a shock to my girlfriend because she believed we would stay in the same city and begin living together, even though we had never discussed it. She decided to move cities with me as well, this time to the city where her parents reside. She frequently invited me to her home, and I stayed overnight, so we effectively began living at her place. Even though I was still paying rent for my room as well, I wanted her to visit me, but she declined due to the size of the room and the fact that she could not bring her dog to the building. At one point, I began to feel uneasy about that, so I spoke with her father and started giving him some money to cover the expenses related to my staying there. I did this without her knowledge because I thought it would be better addressed directly, without involving her, since she sometimes became upset discussing finances. This later proved to be a mistake since now she insists that I should give the money to her, and she would explain everything to her father, or that I should cover food and other daily expenses. We spent a lot of time that year every weekend walking in the forest, and for the most part it was enjoyable, even though we also argued sometimes during those walks. Currently, she asserts that this was evidence of my laziness and inadequacy as a boyfriend, as this was a place she introduced me to, and we reached it primarily in her father's car, which she drove. I did not possess a driver's license at that time, though she later told me I couldn't be a driver anyway, as she believes I am too irresponsible. While I can agree with her regarding her effort in driving us there, I would not characterize visiting the same place every week as particularly demanding organizationally, even though I have no objections to it. I appreciated the place and would be happy to visit it daily, not to mention that we eventually started going there via public transport, despite her overall disdain for buses. I also took responsibility for the morning and evening dog walks and the longer walk on most weekdays. She has claimed that at that time I was not assisting her with other household chores, such as laundry, cooking, washing the dishes, taking out the trash, etc. In retrospect, I believe this may be accurate. Conversely, I dedicated at least 2 hours each day assisting her with her studies, homework preparations, etc. But she insists that this was merely a waste of time and that I caused her more harm than good by doing so, even though she requested that kind of help during that time. She would also quickly dismiss my efforts to wash the dishes. I was accustomed to cleaning them by hand, while she preferred the dishwasher or when I took care of cleaning the bathroom. This was also the year in which we first experienced intimacy, a moment that for me was groundbreaking as it made me feel accepted as her partner. Perhaps due to the excitement associated with this, I overlooked the issues mentioned earlier. She informed me that from the following year I could live with her, allowing me to cease paying for the room, but it later turned out that there might be complications regarding that, so I applied for a student room again. That year, besides the seaside trip, we visited a location that I found. Most of the time, she appeared happy with it. But on the final night, a group of intoxicated individuals began partying loudly nearby, ruining the atmosphere and preventing us from sleeping well. Later, I received numerous complaints. First, that I had rented some cheap accommodation, and when she discovered that I paid more than she had anticipated, she complained that I had not put enough effort into finding a suitable location, etc. I am uncertain what to make of it. Definitely very discouraging in terms of organizing anything for us. Generally, it was quite difficult to plan any activities, as she frequently told me she had no time or changed her mind, forcing me to cancel reservations. From that year onward, I began financing our holidays myself, leaving the driving and fuel expenses to her, as she started accusing me of being unmanly for not taking enough financial responsibility. I also began taking driving lessons to obtain my driver's license. I understood that it was essential for both of us, to ensure that in the case of any unexpected event, I could quickly get us to the hospital. And when we eventually acquired our own flat or house, I could drive my girlfriend somewhere instead of relying on her. This was quite challenging for me. I had a rather negative experience when I attempted to obtain my driver's license after high school. My instructor was terrible, constantly shouting and insulting me, unwilling to explain anything, leading me to believe I should never attempt to drive. My girlfriend mentioned that it was also a tough period for her. I was angry and perpetually complaining due to the increased contact with my mother. I prepared for and passed the driving course in my hometown. This is likely true, although we often discussed her family issues, and I never created any problems out of that. One recurring theme of her behavior is sabotaging the hard work she puts into her studies. This is why I dedicated so much time to assisting her with her academics. When left to her own devices, she becomes anxious and struggles to write simple emails with inquiries for materials for tests or forgets to submit homework on time. She claims this is due to exhaustion from our relationship, frequent arguments, and lack of entertainment. But I cannot accept that as the only or primary explanation and simply find a way to motivate her to complete the final stages of her work. Study alongside her, or if necessary, do her work for her. For instance, I wrote her bachelor's thesis because when she was running out of time instead of working on it, she started crying, claiming it was too late, blaming me for not organizing appropriate leisure activities for us. Nonetheless, I managed to write a third of it on the night before the submission date. The other two-thirds I wrote earlier when I noticed she seemed too stressed and lost to begin properly. Similarly, I prepared several presentations for her to save her time. I am simply significantly quicker at this and not easily stressed, and created revision materials for her final exams while studying with her. Once she requested that I complete some tedious homework, and either I refused or forgot about it. I cannot remember the specifics, leading her to become very upset that I participated in online discussions on Discord while I could have devoted that time to preparing that homework instead. Thus, she is not very consistent regarding her attitude toward my assistance with her studies. Another issue that upset her was my joking about her parents. The truth is that she complains and jokes about them too, so I assumed this was her way of coping with their behavior and desired someone to share her perspective. Nevertheless, I ceased making such jokes completely from the moment she told me, or rather shouted at me. Conversely, she frequently insults my parents and expounds on how her family is superior to mine in terms of health, sports involvement, approach to family, financial management, and various other factors. She insists that she has the right to speak this way because we live in her home, which is owned by her family. At the beginning of this academic year, I made a conscious effort to ensure that whenever I am at her apartment, I undertake significantly more household chores than she does, in terms of meal preparation, cleaning, etc., and assume greater financial responsibility since, currently, I am the only one of us earning income. Recently, I organized a 4-day trip for us to a beautiful city nearby, covering all costs, renting the room, arranging activities, etc., expecting this would make her happy. Naturally, before the trip, she repeatedly stated that this was of no importance, that she wanted me to cancel it, that she preferred to be alone, and that she was certain that I had prepared nothing and our stay would be dull, etc. But I anticipated this reaction, so while it was disheartening, I was somewhat prepared for it. We had to wake up early for the train. Before planning the trip, I specifically asked her if she would be finished with her studies and if this was a suitable time, which she assured me it was. The night before our train, she was still working on some studies and began yelling at me that we would only go if I packed her belongings, so I attempted to do that. During this process, her wallet was misplaced and she stormed out, telling me that I was utterly disorganized like my parents. I informed her that I had placed it on her desk alongside binoculars and that she must have moved it, but she insisted that she always puts it in the same spot. After our trip, it became clear that she had placed it in her bag and forgotten. She never apologized for this, merely stating that in relationships, we should be ready for others to make mistakes. During the trip, she appeared to be in a good mood for most of the day. But at night, she screamed at me, calling me a bad boyfriend and stating that she would end our relationship because I planned to mistreat her, implying that this would inevitably happen. It is absurd given what I have written so far, but I decided to propose during this trip. I hoped that it would finally allow her to feel secure and that taking our relationship to the next level would alter her attitude towards me. We discovered a beautiful engagement ring and purchased it, although this also involved some arguing because I left the shop to make a bank transfer to cover the ring's cost. And she commented that I was acting strangely, making us appear as if we were planning to steal jewelry. Unfortunately, the engagement did not significantly change anything in the long term. We argue more frequently than ever. I frequently hear that we should break up and that she intends to return the ring. Now we have the additional topic of contention. She informed me from the outset that she would keep our engagement a secret from her parents. I have never seen her wearing the ring, she keeps it locked in a box. In response, I stated that in that case I would not tell my parents either, which is a significant issue for her. Now she accuses me of wanting to leave her, claiming that I do not want her to be part of my family, which is broadly accurate, as I could count on one hand the number of times she has said something favorable about anyone in my family, etc. But I do not think I will change my position on this, as it clearly serves as a form of manipulation. She constantly tells me that I am lazy, a man-child, etc., which would not be so painful if it were not true that we are both studying unemployed, and I am the only person with an income, saving most of it for our future. She contrasts me with other men, her family, my friends, to illustrate why I am inferior to them. The last time I had several job interviews that went rather well, I started planning to rent something for us if I secured a sufficient salary. My friend and my father congratulated me on my performance, but my fiance's initial response was to tell me not to believe that having a job and earning a significant income would compel her to assist with household tasks. I am uncertain how she reached this conclusion, but within the same conversation, she proceeded to tell me that I do not love her. By the way, I continue to assist her substantially with research for her master's degree. Recently, she began asserting that, unlike her, I am not family-oriented, that I merely desire to have fun, and that she can never count on me. This does not prevent her from declaring that I am her best friend and that I have significantly aided her self-esteem. Given the emotional nature of this post, I will not deceive myself into thinking that I am even remotely objective. Nonetheless, I want to emphasize some of the things she has done for me, although I genuinely regret that because she continuously brings them up as examples of sacrifices she made for me. Countless times when we traveled anywhere by car, she was the driver. On several occasions, she drove me somewhere even when it was quite inconvenient for her, waking up early in the night. She introduced me to some fascinating places in her city. Many times, she prepared meals for both of us. She assisted me in finding a way to pursue my hobby for free and encouraged it when I considered resigning. Steps I have taken to address our issues. I have given up on our sexual relationship. I have started submitting my resume to job and internship opportunities to secure better financial prospects in the future, and have also begun submitting resumes on her behalf because she expressed a desire to find a job as well. I have enrolled in new studies aimed at improving my career prospects. I organized a trip for us to relax and enjoy ourselves. I have begun pretending not to hear many hurtful comments from her. I have started spending more time alone to allow my girlfriend more space. I have found some interesting activities for her and offered to pay for them. I am unsure what I expect from this post. I am simply exhausted and perhaps need to share my feelings to relieve tension and anger. What would you do in my situation, considering that I feel committed to my fiancé and want our relationship to survive rather than end? I am particularly interested in women's perspectives, as that might be the aspect I am missing. Story 3. In a world where I was the walking encyclopedia, a thriving top student in a foreign country, friendship felt impossible until Alex entered my life. I care about you this much, I thought as I became his emotional therapist. Just when I thought it was real, he ghosted me. Now I'm left feeling worthless and broken, craving the honesty I never got. Can I break free from this toxic cycle? Growing up in a first-world country, yes, you would not have guessed it looking at my life now, would you? Friendships were always strange for me. I had classmates, people I spoke to at school, but those connections never truly developed. You know how it is, school friends remain at school. I mostly missed out on playdates and hanging out on weekends. I was always on the outside looking in, yearning for those genuine, close friendships, particularly with certain individuals, you know, the type you connect with immediately. However, I was clueless about how to actually create those bonds, and honestly, I was terrified of attempting and facing rejection. Academically, though, I was consistently at the top of the class like always. It kind of became my entire identity, I suppose. People identified me as the walking encyclopedia, as I was said to know a bit about everything. Then when I reached grade 12, bam, my family moved to a developing nation. Talk about a culture shock, right? University here is intense and extremely competitive, particularly in the field I am pursuing. One must be the best of the best just to gain admission. Now in my third year, I am still pushing myself, still rather alone if I am honest. However, last year at the end of second year, this classmate, let's call him Alex, began to show interest in me. And Alex, he was one of those individuals, the ones I secretly hoped to befriend but never had the courage to approach. He just appeared to be effortlessly cool, you know. When he initiated conversations with me, I was ecstatic, seriously thrilled. It began with text messages, just casual exchanges, but it gradually evolved into daily, constant messaging. Even after the semester concluded, we continued to chat throughout the summer break, sometimes until late at night. It felt incredible. Like finally at last, a genuine friendship. Each message from him was like a tiny boost of happiness. He would ask me questions and genuinely listen when I responded, and it just felt good. He even assured me that he would always be there to talk, which foolishly I entirely believed. I let my guard down, started to be vulnerable, sharing things I typically kept bottled up. I developed all these expectations, imagining us being real friends. I must admit, I was even starting to genuinely like him. His scent, it sounds peculiar, but even his smell was comforting, almost addictive. Then bam, silence. He simply disappeared. He ghosted me. No warning, no explanation, nothing at all, just radio silence. It was devastating. Honestly, it was the most depressed I have ever felt, and I am not exaggerating. I cried a lot, like every day, multiple times a day sometimes. It was embarrassing, I know, but it hurt, like physically hurt. When university resumed for my third year and I saw him again, it felt like twisting the knife. I managed to keep it together during class, but the moment I returned home, the floodgates opened again. I just could not understand it. Why? Why did he ghost me like that? All I felt was this gut-wrenching rejection, as if I meant nothing to him. I confronted him about it, yes, a few times. But he just lied, fabricated excuses, and dodged the whole situation. He would not even look me properly in the eye. Anyway, somehow throughout the third year, we somewhat repaired our relationship, mostly because I did all the work, let's be real. He was dealing with this entire mess involving his girlfriend, a super toxic on-again, off-again situation. And guess who became his emotional dumping ground? Yes, yours truly. I essentially became his therapist, especially during their breakups. The night they officially broke up, it was the first final exam of the semester, and there I was, phone attached to my hand. We talked for 9 hours that day. 9 hours later that evening, I even drove to his place and took him out for a drive just to get him some fresh air. Crazy, right? But I just wanted to be there for him. Whenever he wanted to spend time together, I dropped everything, literally everything. When he called crying about her, I felt his pain as if it were my own. I even cried for him after we hung up. He would go on and on about how much he cared for her and how she did not care for him, and in my mind all I could think was, dude, I care about you this much. Can't you see it? Why don't you care about me even half as much? And yes, I was even more attracted to him at that point, foolishly. That scent, his voice, even in his messiness, just drew me in. Then 3 weeks after all that drama, guess what? He got back with her, of course. He transferred to her cohort even. It was as if he completely erased me, ignored my messages for days. It felt like a slap in the face. This entire friendship was draining me. I was giving everything and receiving what? Nothing. So I started to distance myself. I figured I had to protect myself, right? But then a week after that, they broke up again. And guess who came crawling back? Yes, he texted me all confused, asking why I was being distant. I simply told him I did not know what he wanted from me anymore. Which was true, I didn't. Inside, I was just a jumble of confused feelings. I know I should cut him off for my own sake, for my sanity. But I just cannot. I love him too much, damn it. It honestly makes me tear up just thinking that he will never feel even a fraction of that back. And the worst part, he is so sweet with his words sometimes. It's like he knows exactly what to say to pull me back in. It feels like an addiction. I know it is not good for me, but I cannot help it. Yet he lies about trivial, pointless things, like claiming he is asleep when I can clearly see he just posted something online. Why even lie about that? It is just frustrating. Last night, I sent him a long, heartfelt message, pouring my heart out about how much I care for him and how special he is to me. 10 minutes later, bam, he replied with a lengthy message. Way too long for just 10 minutes, and it just felt off, too perfect, too polished. So yes, I checked, it was ChatGPT. Seriously, he could not even bother to compose a real response. At this point, I do not even feel hurt anymore, not really, just disappointed. A constant, dull ache of disappointment. I keep pouring all this care and energy into this relationship, and I receive crumbs in return, pennies, leaving me feeling just empty. All I want is to hear him say it and truly mean it, that he cares for me, that he I do not know loves me even as a friend. But he is always so detached, emotionally constipated almost. I just wish he would be honest about anything, even the little trivial lies. I wish I could be his number one the way he is mine. Then I feel guilty for even feeling that way, as if I am being selfish, using him to fill a void within me, taking advantage of him venting to me. I feel like I should not even want this because he does respect me, I guess, but respect is not enough. I desire integrity, reciprocation, authenticity. I sometimes hate my life because I cannot stop thinking about him. And when he ignores me, I feel worthless, as if I am nothing. I understand it is messed up, I know it is wrong, but that is how I feel. I feel ashamed of myself when he disregards me because of the emotional, cheesy things I say. Yet when he does give me attention, when he is sweet, I feel incredible, like on top of the world for a few moments. It is so convoluted, I feel so broken inside. Completely and utterly broken.